you're a counselor and you reached out to us and you wanted to kind of talk about what kids are struggling with. And when we were talking, you mentioned you were like, I'm a counselor, but technically people have coaches in life. They have, life coaches. There's your basketball coach, this coach, your music coach. And it's okay to call them a coach when it's for a sport. But it's like, as a counselor, you're doing the same thing. You're coaching them in life. And it's funny because counseling does have that stigma, but at the same time, you turn around and name a coach, a life coach, and it's like, oh, cool, you're trying to better yourself. So it's just interesting how just tweaking one little word really changes everything.
100%.
But do you think when somebody says you're trying to better yourself, do you think that there's like a stigma attached to that on its own? Because I think a lot of people don't want to talk about self-care. So I think a lot of people look at it as almost a negative sometime or like a wasted effort when it's one of the most fruitful things you can do for yourself.
Absolutely.
This is the Bosu Lifestyle Show. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel.
And, I think it's one of those things where, Steve, I'll kind of answer the first part of your question first. I definitely feel like there's a stigma when it comes to, okay, counselor versus coach. Where really, in all honesty, I don't know about you guys. I know for myself, I did play sports in high school. I was a baseball guy. I played baseball throughout my entire life. And I found myself not necessarily going to my counselor, but I went to my coach and some of my friends instead for some of that advice or some of that life advice, some of those situations that maybe, I didn't want to talk about with anybody else, but felt comfortable going to my adult coaches about. So it's pretty funny how that kind of works out like that. So really, in all honesty, I do feel like, coaching, and when it comes to life, if you think about sports, you have a goal to get better, correct? In sports, to be
to excel, to win.
Exactly. You have the same type of goals, and that's what coaching is. Even for life coaching, for personal development coaching, whatever it may be, you're looking to consult with somebody on helping you to achieve those goals. They're not doing them for you. They're not, right. They are leading you towards a solution to whatever issues or problems or whatever goals you set forth. So I think that stigma definitely is developed, but kind of needs to be broken down a little bit, for sure. Because I think, when you start talking about self-care, then it starts getting into mental health, and then mental health kind of has its own stigma, and then it's like, okay, hands off. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. And, that's thankfully, I think in the coming, over the past few years, I think that stigma has kind of gone away a little bit, or at least been accepted a little bit more.
I think it's changed a little bit to the point where I think mental health, even in my younger generation, it would be looked, when that word would, or that phrase would kind of turn in conversation, it would be looked at like something's wrong with this person. Like there's a resolute wrongness or something's broken and it's not fixable. And that's just, from personal experiences, that's just completely wrong. So I 100% agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people need it. And like he said, if you go to your coach for it, it's no big deal. But if you go to the counselor in school, back when I was in school, it was like, oh, he's going to talk to the counselor, which is wrong, but it's the way it was. And it's just funny how just tweaking the word literally changed the whole thought process on it. And I think
the whole dynamic.
Yeah, life coaching is becoming more accessible, becoming better. So it's just a matter of continuing down the road. And as more and more people, I guess, work with people like you and do better, they're willing to tell their friend, and their friend comes to see you, and it kind of dominoes.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you finding that with the kids that are, what's your general age bracket? I guess I should say, in the school that you're in.
So I've had experience over the past, 9, almost 10 years now, with mainly adolescents. So, you're looking at teenagers all the way into young adults, early 20s, that kind of stuff.
So while they're going through their major changes emotionally and physically and mentally, are you finding that they're, over the past decade of doing this, have you found that there's been a shift in either they're more active in seeking out advice from a counselor or a mentor or someone like an adult, or are you still seeing that mainly kids are staying in their own collective circle of peers until something needs to be escalated to a level that you guys are there for?
I think I think I think you see a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think you're always gonna have those kids that are like, dude, you're going to see the counselor, or like you're going to see this person,
Right.
or oh, dude, you see a therapist, like like something's
Like
wrong
that's
with you,
how
like
it
that
would
kind
have
of
been
thing.
reacted. Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
we would have reacted when I was. I mean, I'm almost 38, so when I was 17, that's how I would have reacted. I'm sure of it.
When obviously that's the furthest thing from the truth. Again, you go,
Oh yeah,
you have a pain in your leg, you're like, oh, let me go to the doctor, let me get that checked out. It's the same type of
exactly.
situation. Things inevitably we life is not a one-way road. Ultimately, it's paved in a million and one different directions, and Lord knows it. Everybody needs a little bit of help or guidance with that, and I don't even think that there's any one person that has all the answers, man. I think the answer is just whatever fits for you and best benefits you in your goals in your life in that moment. And that may lead to a mistake. It may lead to something,
Probably
not
lots of
so
benefits.
great or whatever.
How we learn.
But ultimately, even if it's not the desired outcome, it's going to be something that you learn from. It's exactly how you learn.
Yeah.
But to go back to your question, like I do feel like a lot more kids, a lot more young adults, I think a lot more people are seeking out help. And I think that's a terrific thing. I think that's an amazing thing.
Oh, I agree.
For those exact reasons,
Yeah, I don't think there's any. I think there's strength in looking for help in a lot of situations. I think it's actually one of those things on a lot of people's like SWOT charts, like strengths and weaknesses. I think not being able to ask for help when you need it is probably a lot of people who are trying to get to that next tier of executing but can't. It's probably that last rung that they need to kind of grab onto and be like, it's okay to ask for help. It's not like you're not asking for me to give it to you. You're asking to work for it with me. So I
exactly.
completely, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
I think
everybody struggles. Everybody goes through shitty times. It's a part of life. Nobody has life figured out. It's one of the biggest things I kind of tell people when I'm talking to them. Nobody has it figured out. We're all just out here winging
no,
it. Sometimes you got to talk to somebody.
exactly. And I think that was. It's funny as somebody who's worked in counseling and coaching and stuff like that. It's funny that my development, all throughout my adolescent years and younger, my family, I'm very close with my family. I come from an ethnic family. I'm Spanish and Italian, so we're all very, very close. It's like, I never went to anybody for anything. And it
Yeah.
wasn't because of them. It was just, it was me in particular. And again, as a counselor, you would never think that like, oh, he probably went and sought out his counselor or this person or that person all the time. No, I never went to anybody. I was very much that kid that kind of kept things in and kind of, would
How old are you?
at the biggest. How old am I now?
Yeah, can I ask that? Yeah, how old are you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be 32 in a month.
So we're all over 30. So I think that's kind of that generational stopgap where like we're all predeterminedly stubborn as shit because it wasn't something that was spoken about when we were kids. So it's like,
Yeah,
fuck help, we'll figure it out, or we won't.
exactly.
Yeah,
And or you would go to your friends and they'd be
exactly.
like, oh dude, just go do this, and like it was just like the worst advice in the world.
Yeah, but the shit that my friends would give me, like, you can definitely ride your rollerblades off that roof. Those are like
100%.
my friends at 16. Or let's box in the parking lot. Great idea, guys.
Exactly.
I mean, we did
Exactly.
it, but it didn't go well.
So,
What do
Exactly.
you Oh, sorry, Steve. I was just
no,
gonna
no, you're
go
good.
for you.
So what are you kind of seeing in your practice? Kind of what are people actually struggling with? The younger demographics, basically, that you're
That's
working
what I
with.
was just gonna ask. Actually, good.
Yeah. Perfect. So what I definitely noticed in some of the, at least over the past 10 years, and then even moving into now, you are seeing some of those same general, high school young adult type of struggles, relationship struggles. Oh, my
Yeah.
boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with me. Oh, this one's talking, shit behind my back. Whatever it may be, you have those
Has
regular
that been
social
made like
issues.
way worse with social media? Like, is that because we didn't have cell phones in high school, and like so I didn't know when people
Yes.
were talking shit on anybody unless I read it on like a bathroom wall. So like I have to
Literally.
imagine that it's only been exacerbated a million times worse because of social media, because it's instantaneous hate.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't want
And
it's instantaneous harm or hurt to somebody because it's just a push of a button and you can't take it back.
and then literally, even if it's deleted, like you said, you can't take it back. It just goes, to the next person, or it gets shared here, or it gets shared there, or screenshotted
Somebody
here.
took a screenshot before it got deleted.
Oh yeah. And I do feel like some of those issues have been exacerbated for sure. But on the, there's always two sides to every coin. I do feel like, people, or kids or young adults or whomever, social media can be a bit of a, I'm going to box myself in type of thing, where you can kind of create your own audience to have it be just constant people who agree with you. And then you get no challenging thought either. Exactly. And you get a bunch of yes men. And I do feel like, again, you can have both. Unfortunately, you can have both sides, and both sides can be extremely detrimental to you, for sure.
I feel like all the yes men, and this is just, I'm just talking about from like a school standpoint. Like just from what I remember, all the people that were hoarding around the people who they needed their approval for, they were all like exactly what you said. They're saying that they needed your approval so desperately that they would blindly agree with you.
Yep.
That's a dangerous spot to be in as the person at the top of that pyramid, and it's a shitty spot, and also a dangerous spot to be in as the person at the bottom, because you're like accidentally getting indoctrinated to whatever the person at the top of the pyramid wants, says, or thinks.
It's a mob mentality, man.
Yeah, I mean, how is that compatible in school? In a it's like a petri dish. There's no way to combat that.
No, and that's the thing. You think about yourselves.
Tell me how.
Yeah. Think about yourselves in high school. Again, your world was that high school at the time, or even in college, it was that college campus at that time. It wasn't the college campus or the high school campus plus everybody else that you have on this other separate life that you've tried to create. You know what I mean? It almost kind of challenges, and obviously we're kind of getting a little bit into psychology here. It challenges your own ego a little bit. It really tends to challenge your own self-image. Because if you're putting yourself out there in a genuine way, and then all of a sudden somebody doesn't agree with that, and then the next person hops on that, and then the next person hops on that, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, hold on, I'm wrong. I'm the worst person in the world, and I need to back up, and now I need to change myself. When really, in all actuality, it has nothing to do with them. It's more than likely what I've tended to find is that whatever they're coming at you about, or whatever they're criticizing you about, more than half the time it's some kind of shortcoming in themselves.
Or they're having an emotional battle at home, or there's a problem that we're unaware of that they're deflecting instead of kind of absorbing and kind of letting shit go. Yeah, there's so many different reasons. But I'm glad that you pointed that out, because people who don't deal with it on a daily basis or haven't had to deal with it they just assume that person's an asshole.
And meanwhile,
which they may have been an asshole in the moment, but that might not be the predetermined setting.
Exactly.
Either with social media. I mean, like before you went to school, you'd go home and you were kind of around your family, where now you open your phone, you're getting text messages, you're getting blasted on social media for stuff. So it's even more of a reason to try and fit in and just go with status quo, because you're like, they're going to fucking destroy me every which way possible.
Yeah. Most definitely.
I mean,
yeah. And that's another point I wanted to bring up too, is like, that's another social dynamic that I'm finding. And again, like, I think it was that way with us as well, post 30s, that kind of generation, millennials.
Yeah.
I think, even when we were growing up, there was still a little bit of that nuclear family. It was like broken down a little bit. It was, you still had, a mom and a dad, or maybe like they were divorced or separated or whatever it may be. But like, I don't know about you guys.
The cohesiveness was still like, it was
still there.
Mom, dad, sister, brother, half dog, and a white.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was
exactly. And nowadays, that nuclear family, that traditional nuclear family that you think that's, should be there and really is like the cornerstone of what your values are and how you grow up and how you end up getting checked at the end of the day, especially when you're younger. It is so much less common than what it ever has been. You have mom.
I actually don't even like the
you
idea
have
of
a
the
kid.
nuclear family.
I get it.
I don't.
I get it.
The whole idea of the nuclear family was to draw people out of the wilderness into more urban settings to help infrastructure build out and to support power plants and shit like that. We weren't. I don't know that we were meant to congregate the way that we are. We're not. I mean, it's more anthropic than it is like primate kind of action and behavior. So I'm cool with disrupting the nuclear family model.
That I think that's fair.
We're kind of talking about two different things in the way, because I see nuclear family as, like he's saying, just parents, siblings. You guys stick together. You're
yeah,
not
well,
yeah. Like
that's
I get
kind of that's
I'm
more or
thinking
less
of
what
it
I mean.
like, yeah, I was thinking of it as like before nuclear family, the idea was homesteading. We all kind of
I don't think that's
No.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah,
Different than
I
my
more
bad.
mean it in terms of
I'll
like.
peel it back.
Oh no. I think, and it's good.
You're,
like I
you're
think
more thinking of like the painted image in your brain when you're thinking of like traditional America.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I
okay.
think of like, again, like just sitting down at the dinner table with your family at the end of the day. How was your day? How was this? That kind of stuff. You don't have that anymore. You have a lot, you have parents, that are obviously separated, divorced, maybe mom or dad, or just completely non-existent. And then you have mom or dad, whoever the kid is living with at that time, working 2-3 jobs just to try to make ends meet, because let's just be honest, inflation has absolutely kicked everybody's ass. So, you have,
I mean,
it's no longer that parents are mainly raising kids a lot of times
the dynamic
in that
has
type of
changed.
situation.
Mom has to work too. Mom and dad have to both work.
Correct.
Where single income families have dropped by like 90% in the country. It's almost and it was 90. It was already a high percentage before COVID, but COVID's only made it that much stronger.
So in turn, what does that lead to? That leads to, one, your friends kind of raising you somewhat, older friends, older siblings, if you have them. And then you have, again, when we were growing up, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of your friends or your friends' family or whatever. They would raise, help to raise kids.
Learned behavior came from who you were around.
Exactly. Now you have another added dynamic of social media is now raising kids at the same time, because maybe they're, because, all right, let's think about post-quarantine. Post-quarantine, everybody kind of was stuck inside and stuff like that. Not to blame everything on COVID or anything like that, but like a lot of people were stuck inside. A lot of people only had social media to kind of deal with. The social development of kids kind of got really stunted. So in turn, social media became kids' sounding board. It became their therapy. It became their resource for, like, it became their outlet, more or less, and it became their resource for parenting almost.
Outside world too. I mean, like, didn't they say that? And it's unfortunate. I really hope that I'm wrong when I say this, but I'm pretty sure that I did certainly read this, that babies that were born during that 3-year COVID issue are, not all of them, but that there was a higher percentage of ones that were having issues with like communications. Like, not that they can't speak, but it's a little slower to develop.
Absolutely.
You have heard that. Okay, cool. I didn't want to put it out
even in terms of babies, because babies need both visual and auditory.
Audio too.
So for that, a lot of mask wearing, that kind of stuff, like you couldn't see the mouth, that kind of stuff. And even when they got back into schools, masks were there, and it became a really big issue.
TV isn't. They don't learn mouth behavior of tactile sensation trying to mouth words off the TV. They need to see you physically do it. It's a repeatable process.
For sure.
Putting a kid in front of a TV isn't going to teach them how to speak Spanish.
Exactly.
It's just not. It doesn't. Barely works for fucking adults. Shit, I've been on Duolingo level 1 for 5 years.
Listen, dude, I'm doing the same thing. I am half Spanish, and I'm still trying to learn.
Crazy. I do. You know what? I have a 19-year-old kid, and I don't want to just take you off topic, but we have I work in an industry where there's a lot of kids. We're in the gym industry, and I see two very different types of people in and out of the gym. And I see a lot of teenagers in our gym who are kind of vibrant and excitable, and like they'll have conversation. Even if they have their headphones on and they don't want to be fucked with, they're still at least like present in the moment. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I see other kids who aren't in that atmosphere, and they're like stoic or catatonic, and they look at their feet and they have terrible fucking posture. And there's just no, they don't exude confidence in in any bit, shape, or form. And it's the saddest thing ever, because thankfully my son is a very confident, he's in college, he's confident, like that's not an issue. But like there was a moment where that wasn't his bag. He wasn't a confident young man. He was doing himself, but it was just a disservice. Like, what are you seeing? What, I guess what my question is there a compatible breakdown in confidence that you've seen in these young boys and girls in school? And if so, like, is there any program that's going on to help them reestablish confidence, or is meeting with somebody like you and having a counselor walk them through what kind of issues or quandary they might be in and solve it on their own the best route?
So, okay. So what I've noticed most of all, and at least from what I see a lot of, I think during that time in general, a lot of teenagers, a lot of young adults tend to, it's kind of just part of the development that they are either they're developing it quickly or they're developing it slowly. That self-confidence, finding out who they are, that's a big part of that development. I'm sure we've all heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that feeling of, sort of that feeling of belongingness.
Needing to place fulfillment within yourself.
Exactly. Like is a huge part of that. And it's right at that crux, of that age, of that stage of development. And I think, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, I think you do see a polarizing view of the teenagers, the young adults. I think what I'm seeing most of all, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong again, I think what I'm seeing most of all is that a lot of that self-confidence is now being driven by physical attributes. Going to the gym, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, not in any way, shape, or form. I go to your gym. You know what I mean? I was never a big dude. Growing up, I'm 5'9" on a good day. And, for me, I was just a skinny kid. I didn't get really into the gym until much later, but I had to learn how to kind of develop that walk and talk and that confidence through my own personality early on. But what I'm seeing much more now is, and especially perpetuated, and I hate to go back to social media, but kind of that thing of be a monster, be bigger, be this, be that, and you will exude this confidence.
Yeah, I mean, they're turning it into every other 19-year-old's coming out with a fitness clothing line or something, and they're turning it into a multi-million-dollar company overnight just through viewership. So, I mean,
hey, and good for them.
I agree, but I also think that it's danger, and I think the entire industry is guilty of it, and multiple other ones too. I think it sensationalizes things that may or may not naturally occur in nature. I'm not saying that all these people are natural. I'm not saying that all of them are not, but I'm saying that exactly, and that's the problem, right? Because you're I don't even want to use the guy's name, so I won't. But there was a dude who was misleading everybody in the world for a very long time about being natty and eating testicles. And guess what? It wasn't fucking real, people. But
came out.
Yeah, and it comes out. And so, like, this person might idolize you. This kid might idolize you and be like, I'm going to buy his supplements. I'm going to eat the way he tells me to eat on this $9 ebook that I just bought. And I'm going to wear his fucking clothes. And guess what? I'm going to give it a year of my life. And while he will make progress, it won't be anywhere near what the person who isn't doing it naturally is going to attain. And you've almost misled, and you've taken this person's trust and shat on it. Hopefully in that year of time, they've developed better skills for themselves, right? And they've created healthier habits, which is ultimately the end goal for everybody. But still, I just think that it all started with being lied to through social media.
There's
nothing that you can do about it.
Too. We talked about it before. I mean, fitness magazine.
Oh yeah.
Shit with all
Metrics.
I think you have day in the life. They're following them around, watching them eat their meals. That's some crazy shit. I've watched a few of them. When, like, they're 19, they're on 10,000 things, and it's like, this is what I eat. It doesn't matter what you eat, bro. You're on like 10 different things. But
Not to
Yes.
segue, but like now you see all these young guys dying. Now you see guys in their
Yeah.
20s and 30s who are like just getting into the sport or like have so much potential just in life. Like you don't even know what they're going to do when they stop bodybuilding and then just die.
Yeah, and that's a downside.
Absolutely.
The upside, I feel like, is like getting into the gym, or for you, like you said, you played sports. Like certain things is what you're going to find to excel at, and once you start excelling at anything, you start to build confidence in yourself. Like if you never lifted a weight, but you were a star pitcher or you were like a good whatever in whatever sport, you start to get confidence in yourself. That's kind of how you develop confidence. So
Yes.
like as great as some of the things are, they're also like great. It's like abuse. It just sometimes it gets abused and pushed too far.
Yeah.
Agreed. And that was the main thing is like, okay, so you talked about baseball. I was a middle infielder. I played second base and shortstop all throughout my entire life. And it's funny, I was a good shortstop and second baseman, but I was also a dime a dozen. So like I really always had to kind of compete and stuff like that for a spot. But
Right.
when I would make a mistake, it was like my entire game went. And that was it. They were like, "Oh, Ray's done." Ray dropped a ball. He made an error. He was done. That was it. And as much of that self-confidence as I felt like I had in myself was just as easily as I felt like it could be broken down because of that self-perfectionist sort of mentality. But I feel
as soon as somebody that you respect says I'm disappointed in you, even if they don't use those words, your shoulders go from here to fucking here. Like it's just
Literally.
it sucks.
Literally. And I think the biggest lesson that I had to learn, and I think it's the same thing with a lot of these kids, like everybody, you know what I mean? And we mentioned it earlier, you can't sit in the mistake. You can't if there's no challenge, there's no growth. If there's no mistakes, you don't learn. If there's no you can sit and I think, and I'm sure you guys have seen this kind of on social media as well. Yes, fail forward. Yeah, I think you mentioned that in one of your previous podcasts as well. Yeah. Fail forward. I wasn't seeing that as a kid.
You passed. No.
So I think for these, for a lot of these guys, a lot of these younger guys, they got to understand that perfection, one, is not real. The ideal body, life, this, that, is not real. All of the influences that they see that are perfect is not real.
Well, it's all
go touch grass a little bit. Go understand that life is hard. Life is going to be hard. Life may kick you in the teeth every once in a while, but it's about it's like Rocky. He's it's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about you got to get up one more time. It's about how many times you get back up. And that's 100% true.
We're putting a lot of weight on people's opinions.
I got a good one for you. It's a Les Brown quote. He said, "Someone else's opinion of you is none of your business." And that's what I try to say in my head.
Love that.
You think somebody's saying something, it's none of my business what the fuck they think about me.
Yeah,
I love.
And I'm a person who really does care. Generally, I do care about people's opinions and what they think, but I'm trying to wean myself off of giving a shit because I really shouldn't, but I do. And for me, it's I'm more prone to I'm completely cool with criticism. I'm completely cool with opinion if it's helpful, if it's in a constructive way. I just completely against anybody's opinion that's negative just for the sake of, hey, listen, this sucks. I'm going to shit on it, but I'm going to offer no insight as to how to make it better. I don't need problems.
Absolutely.
I have my own fucking problems. No. I can make my own problems. I don't need.
Well, that was my thing. Is I got the worst critic in the world is right up here, homie. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's my thing. I am my own worst critic in the world. I don't need more of it from anybody else. You know.
Yeah, you got to live in your own head 24/7. So
yeah, rent free 24/7 up here.
So what are some of the ways that you can kind of cope with building confidence as a young adult? So the kids who are listening, let's kind of talk to them a little bit. So you're somewhere between 14 and 18. You're trying to develop confidence. You feel a little down. How are you starting to develop confidence in yourself? What are you kind of helping them develop it? How?
Be comfortable. Be comfortable in discomfort. Be comfortable in discomfort. And I say that because anything that is new that you do is going to be uncomfortable. Anything that is difficult is worth doing. Nothing that's not worth doing is it's not going to come easy. The more you
because
make
you
mistakes.
deal with kids. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I didn't.
No.
Continue. I was going to ask. I'm not going to forget. I'm writing it down in my brain. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think with that, it's the more you make mistakes and the more that it's not that you made a mistake and you're a failure. You're not a failure for doing that. You're not behind anybody else. You're not. You could fail 100 times, but each and every time you learn something new, and then you get better and better and better each time.
Well, that's innovation, right? If we stopped innovating
Yeah.
at our first fail, we would never have a fucking wheel.
We'd
have a square
100%.
rock with no holes in it.
Exactly.
My question that I didn't want to forget, I almost just forgot,
Yeah.
but was, so you have to kind of, the way that you said that those are the kind of things that you would kind of pass along to the kids that come in that really do need guidance. Do you find that, like, for me, if I'm going back to high school again, and I distinctly remember one of my coaches saying, what do you say? Something like, life's hard, get a helmet, or suck it up. It's not going to get any fucking easier. Are you allowed to deliver? Are you even able to give those kind of like hard?
Sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need
I
to.
completely agree. I think it's a little bit easier to give them the hard ones than it is to try to soften the blow. But like, if a kid went home and said, "Oh, Mr. So and so said, toughen up," not even toughen the fuck up. That's what I would have said. Or get a helmet. Is there gonna be like lashback because you said get a helmet? Life's hard. When like this kid, like, or do you have? I'm not saying say to get a helmet, but I'm saying, like, if you say life's hard, like it's only going to get harder. You just have to get harder than the obstacles to come. Like, you need to be tougher than the problem. Like, instead of like, are you allowed to do that, or are you kind of like bound to
more or less? But it's more or less a way in which you kind of phrase it. It's more or less like
so
again,
I can't do your job. I already know that. That's why I was asking.
No, but that's the whole thing. Like, you own a series of gyms. You were like, if I remember correctly, you used to work at a YMCA. Is that correct? I believe that's correct.
Yeah. I worked at a YMCA back.
Okay.
Yep.
You were a trainer. You did all like I'm sure you had to deliver some of those tough messages. I'm sure you needed to kind of say something along those lines that maybe somebody came to you about at some point or in some way, shape, or form.
To adults all the time.
That's my point.
That was my disconnect. I've never had to sit there and talk about it. Like, even when I was in law enforcement, I remember giving one Scared Straight tour in a prison to a bunch of kids. But I remember being like, "Yo, don't scare the kids. They're already in prison." So that's like a weird way for me to be like, "Hey, life's fucking tough. You'll end up here if you don't knock it off." I wasn't going to do that.
And I think for me, the type of message that I tend to deliver is essentially the same thing. Sometimes sometimes it's a bit more direct. It's a bit more like, "Yo, dude, like, life's going to move on without you, whether you want to sit in this or not." And sometimes I've had to be like, a little bit more gentle with it, a little bit more stoic with it, a little bit, exactly. Same message of just like, listen, man, like, things will get harder. 100%, because you have to be able to deliver realistic expectations to kids. You're not going to sit there and say life's going to be grand all the time, or life is always going to be terrific. No, if that was the case, life would be friggin' boring. And if everybody gets everything that they want, then what's there to life?
Yeah, and it makes me happy that you're allowed to at least give the message, because you always hear about like these things on the news, which news is, again, in the ears of the fucking beholder these days. But you always hear where like school boards are tying people's hands and like counselors aren't able to do their jobs and stuff. So it's good to know that you're at least able to do that where you are.
I do that with anybody that comes to me for advice, whether it be, in my profession, or whether that be friends, family, or whomever. You have to be able to deliver that message sometimes. And I think the biggest takeaway from that is you have two choices in life. You can either choose to be a victim and choose to be a victim over and over and over again. And what I mean by that is like, you can either choose to be a victim and sit in that mistake and sit in that issue for as long as you want. Or you can choose to actually let go of the weight of the mistake and do something with it.
The only way to get out of self-pity is to help yourself. No one's going to get you the fuck out of it.
So somebody comes to you, they're basically saying they're going through a shitty time, breakup, friends, bullshit, something at home, and you're telling them, hey, look, you don't want to be the victim. You're going through something shitty. We get it. Everybody struggles. Your struggle is what makes you better. So you get through that part. Now, what are you doing to help them develop maybe a goal or something to go after to actually focus on? Because yes, you can't be a victim, but like, don't they need to focus on something to kind of get going?
They do. And that ties back into self-confidence. And I think that's why, a lot of people do resort to the gym. I think that's a great coping skill for those things, to deal with some of those bigger issues, some of those self-confidence issues, some of those, they're working towards a goal that they can physically see and see the development of.
And it's ultimately something you're in control of, because it's you versus you in the gym.
Literally.
The only person.
And running's good too. I mean, then you're also talking hormone release that you're getting out of it. Like it's more than just the confidence you're building. I think people are missing that part of it. Like if you're feeling like shit and you go outside and go for a walk and then start running, besides the nature, the hormone release in your body is going to help you develop a better mood.
Absolutely. And literally I mentioned again that I was in sports when I was a kid. I stopped doing sports. I'm in a desk job a lot of times. So I tend to stay a little bit more stagnant. For me, I was never a big runner. I hated running, I hated long distance running. I hated doing all that stuff. We were talking before we actually hopped on, part of my own challenge is, Steve, you've done it a couple times now, but doing 75 hard, where you do 2 workouts a day. Now that 2 workout, thing that I do every day. Now I've been doing it for the past 10 days or so. That 2 workout a day, one of those is running for me. It's first thing in the morning. I wake up, I jump out of bed 4:45. I am out the door by 5, and I am walking and jogging around my neighborhood, around in the area. It's dark, it's cold, it sucks. But ultimately,
it's only gonna get better.
But ultimately, it gets easier every day. Do I want to do it? Hell no. I was always a big sleeper when I was a kid. I was never a big morning person. But for me, I become more and more proud of myself that I'm doing that, and doing the shit that's hard develops that self-confidence. Because I know that I'm doing it for me. I don't have anybody else that's holding me accountable except for me. So that helps develop my self-confidence in that regard, because if I can go ahead and do that, and if I'm doing that during this time, especially with the holidays coming up and everything else like that, with the diet and the food and the working out and stuff like that, and it's cold as hell outside in the middle of December, if I could do it then, I could do it anytime, and I'm set. I could do it. I can keep that going for however long I want to. During, if I could do that during the hardest months, so that helps develop my self-confidence.
Yeah, in a previous video, we were talking about choosing pride over choosing happiness. And it's like a weird thing when you first think about it. But if you choose happiness, you're like, oh, I'm going to sleep in. You choose the proud option, you're going to make yourself proud by going for the run. And after doing the run, you're proud and happy. After you sleep in, you're actually miserable after you wake up because you told yourself you're going to do it. So if you always choose pride over happiness, you're going to be happy and proud of yourself. But it's looking at it that way. You have to separate it. It's like eating the pizza. If you're on 75 hard and you can't eat that shit.
Yeah.
When you're not eating the pizza, you feel like shit. You're like, damn, that shit looks good. But afterwards, when you stuck to your meal, you're like, holy shit, I stuck to my meal. I feel great and happy.
Yes.
Instead of being miserable after eating the pizza. And it's hard because we're in this instant happiness, instant gratification world to actually choose to be proud. And you'll just live such a better life.
Absolutely. And I think if we always listen, human beings, we tend to go for the easy thing. We try to.
Yeah.
It's just a human nature type of thing. But if we constantly always go for the easy thing, we never grow. and we never develop, and we never challenge ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. And that's ultimately, to, you know, kind of go back, is that's ultimately what coaching, counseling, helping people to achieve their goals is.
The whole point of it.
It's helping people to achieve their goals. Like, I'm not sitting here saying to, like, you know, let's say, you know, Tony or Steve, you guys come to me and you're like, you know what, my life sucks. I don't, you know, I want to be, you know, I want to, I don't know, I want to be a better father, be a better husband, be a better whatever. And I feel like I'm, you know, I'm doing these things and I'm messing up and I'm, you know, screwing up all over the place. Okay, let's sit here and try to go over what things, how you self-sabotage more or less, and the habits in which you've developed, and then try to counter that with goal setting and progressive goals, you know, that compound into a much better lifestyle day in and day out. Mount Everest is not climbed in a day. It's taken one step at a time.
I mean, that's the whole point of all of this. This is our lifestyle. That's why I didn't develop this to just like, let's make a podcast and have a clothing line. It was like, how do we become better every day? Oh, let's name it Build a Superior You. You have one life to make progress. And if you're always in search of progress, you're always going to win the day. You win the day, you get happy, you fucking build on that, and then you set a new goal.
Yeah.
And so many people are just content with, I mean, we're all in our 30s. So you're seeing what percentage of people look better in their 30s than they did in their 20s and graduate high school?
Yeah, it's true. Like, you're 100% right. It's, I say it all the time, you know, like I'm in way better shape now, and doing way better things for myself than I was 10 years ago when I was definitely when I was 21 years old, but you know, going into 22 as well, you know what I mean? So
I think I'm in the best shape of my adult life right now since I've been 26. Yeah, I think I'm in the best shape physically and scale wise since I've been 26 years old right now, and I'm almost 38.
And would you say the same thing about your own mental health as well? Because those things are connected.
I would 100% say the same thing about my mental health. We've, like, my wife and I have been through the myriad of shit in the past 6 years of being together, and in good and bad ways. And, you know, it's tested us physically, emotionally, financially. And luckily enough, I was able to kind of bet on her resolve that we were strong enough to get through it. But yeah, man, this is at this current point in life, healthiest, physically, mentally, financially. It's just been, it's been a journey, but it wasn't like an easy one. So like, I think I'm pro therapy. So I think had like an issue arose where I actually needed to speak to somebody, I would have reached out. I've seen what it's done. It's helped many people, my family and my friend circle, counseling and therapy. So if for some reason one of those answers was no, it's not the best time in life right now, trust me, I would have reached out to somebody. So I think I think it's huge what you guys do.
Thank you. And I think I think that's the biggest takeaway with this is, guys, if you guys need help, if somebody needs help, if you know somebody that needs help, you know, bring them to somebody, bring them to a trusted adult, bring them to a counselor, bring them to a therapist, bring them to somebody, talk to somebody, somebody who is trained, somebody who knows that, you know, somebody who's positive, somebody who's going to be able to help.
And you can, even if you're school aged, like, I'll say this to anybody, if anybody ever listens to this that's in high school, anonymously dime your friends out if you need to. If they need help and they're not going to help themselves and you don't want to fuck up the friendship, dime them out anonymously. The teachers give a shit. The counselors give a shit. If you're an adult and somebody needs help, dime them out fucking anonymously. It doesn't matter. If they need the help the person.
Anybody who is involved in any type of human services field, nurses, doctors, you know, teachers, counselors, therapists, social workers, anybody, they're not, I mean, maybe for doctors, but, you know, they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because they want to help. They want to help people. They love to help people. They want to see people succeed. They want to they are pros of helping people get out of the mud. Because a lot of times they've been through it themselves.
Do you feel like if more kids, like I'm talking about from elementary school through high school, do you feel like if this was if like financial literacy, if financial literacy was taught more, obviously we'd have kids with more money out of school. If emotional self-care was taught more in school or focused on as a focal point for learning, do you think that you would see a decline in some of the issues that we see on large scale with mental health in children? And if so, do you know of any programs like that that are being rolled out, or is that something that is like even feasible?
So I think it's funny you mentioned that. So New Jersey has a graduation requirement for high schoolers that they must take at least a half a year of financial literacy. And that goes for anybody. So it's financial literacy, economics, something in business, something that has some sort of financial management component to it, which I think is an outstanding thing because it was not there when I was there. No. It was a workplace readiness course, and it was, learn about Microsoft Word, Excel, learn how to write a resume, and these are the job skills you need.
Yep.
Which was great, but did not necessarily teach me about finances. So I'm glad that has sort of changed out a little bit. So I think that's an outstanding thing. And now a lot of New Jersey schools and a lot of schools across the country now have developed or are developing a social emotional learning component that goes in part and in tandem with their curriculum. I think it goes, there are a lot more social emotional supports that are out there, even in the community, let's say. There are a ton that are out there. There are a bunch of youth development. That was actually one of my first jobs. I was a youth development specialist, and I would help kids. I would help teenagers with resume building, with goal setting, goal development, and just pretty much anything under the sun. Like I would help them with that. So there are the resources that are out there.
Okay.
Whether it be in schools or even in the community itself, they are out there. Again, we're speaking strictly to the 14, 15, 18-year-olds may be watching this. Go see a counselor. Go see your principal, your vice principal. They will get you the help that they need, or they'll point you in the right direction.
So if we have people listening to who are kind of have kids who are teens, what are some of the signs that they can look for in their kid that maybe they're struggling and that they need to talk to somebody? Because that's a thing too. Like it's hard to know if your kid's going through something. How do you figure that out?
It's just as hard as it was when we were kids. Because again, it's I think even when we were kids, it was, they do. And kids lie to teachers, counselors, and vice principals too. You know what I mean? And principals, like it. I think I think ultimately what they need to be just looking out for is just, it's not necessarily looking out for things. It's maintaining an open and healthy line of communication with your kids. Having them understand that about mental health and that you're in support of it. Having them understand that if they need help with anything, that you're open to talking with them and that it won't be a cringe conversation for them. I mean, it may be a little bit, but like it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation for you too.
Yeah.
But understand that,
it has to happen. It's a conversation.
It does. It does. And even if you're the one to bring it up, or I think, or if they bring it up, be open to it.
As adults, it's our
be open
job
and accepting
to take care of the kids.
And don't be dismissive. Don't be dismissive. Don't be dismissive and turn around and be like, you don't need, it's
suck it up.
Like, you don't need this, you don't need that. I think that's the biggest way that people just kind of go, boop, just instantly put that wall up. And it's like, okay, I can't talk to them.
Tried it once in 1997. We'll never talk to you again. And then you just ruined the relationship for no reason.
So we knocked on social media a lot, but young people can also choose good people to look up to. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's hard, but like at the same time, look at them in their life. If you want to look at following somebody for success, look at somebody who's done successful things, not somebody who's just talking about success.
Oh no,
So
social
like,
media is good in that respect too.
yeah,
Yeah, I get
100%.
what you're saying. I'm not trying to demonize it. There's
no,
great
it has
people out
goods
there.
and bads, but it's just something to mention. Like, hey, if you're 14 to 18, if you want to follow somebody who's doing something that you want to do, like if you like a basketball player, listen to their basketball skills, but if they're divorced 4 times, maybe not take relationship advice from them. Just realize what keep people in their, in their zone. You know what I mean?
In their lane.
There you go, in their lane, and don't follow them for something outside of their lane. And with social media, you can follow 10,000 different people and pick little things from each person.
You hit the nail right on the head. I totally agree. I think there's a lot of influences that are on social media, and certainly not all of them are bad. Listen, I'm on social media. I use it, to talk about coaching. I use it to talk about real things that are on there, that are about life. So for me, I think, and again, listen, I'm obviously no, picturesque version of health habits, this, that, like, I think those are the type of people that you almost want to seek out. You want to seek out real people. You want to seek out people that are talking about their mistakes, their issues, their problems, and are not sitting on a high horse saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. Otherwise you're nothing, or whatever it may be. You want to talk about somebody or you want to follow somebody who really genuinely is
Well, and to that
going
effect,
to talk
you
about
might
their
not be
experiences
the
and move
person-
forward.
Yeah, and you might not share the same physical attributes of a person that you might follow on Instagram for it, but you might have the attributes of somebody who's struggling and wants to get to where you're at. You might
Exactly.
be at their end destination where you might just be at the start of yours physically, and they just want to get from where they're at to where you currently are. So you just have no idea who, what, or where the person is looking up to and why. Like, you could be, hey, listen, I want to look just like this guy. I like his fucking hair. I don't care that he's 5'9". I just want to look like him.
No, it's exactly right.
I'm just saying, like, we just have no idea. So I think it's good to have. It's good for people to have different kinds of insights, because again, like you said, the person who is on Instagram might not be a real person. He or she might just be a business, and their business is getting you to hit the like button, and their like button pays them. Like, when there's a real person, when there's real people out there like you who are saying, hey, listen, reach out to me. I'm here if you need it. I'm not forcing it down your throat, but if you want it, I'm here. That's important.
Yes.
That's a good use for it. And like, if you have any dog videos, you can send them my way too. The dog videos are a good use for social media as well. But
most definitely send all the pet
primarily,
videos,
I think
dude.
all the pet videos. But primarily, that's a better use for as a tool is to offer help and not kind of force people on it. Because if it's there, you might not know. Somebody might have a shit night and be like, you know what? I remember scrolling. Ray did say if I need help, reach out, and then they fucking reach out. And even if they don't, but they think about it, they at least heard your message at one point in time enough for it to resonate, so that you're already in their head saying, if you're not already saying, hey, listen, we need to work on this, they might already be saying, hey, listen, I might need to reach out to somebody for help.
Most definitely. And it's funny you mentioned that. I didn't run this by them before I obviously, went on here with you guys, but I hope they won't mind. But I had a friend of mine, obviously won't mention names, anything like that, but I had a friend of mine reach out to me. I was kind of doing the TikTok thing and just kind of putting stuff out there and talking about some pretty positive stuff and trying to just get stuff out there. And I had stopped posting for a little bit. I'm on a little bit of a break from social media for a little bit, just taking a break from it. And then going to come back to it. And I think that's good every once in a while. But she reached out to me and she was like, so like, why the break? And I had kind of, talked about some of the stuff, and she was like, and I had mentioned the fact that like, I don't even know if it's reaching anybody. Why am I doing this? Why am I even trying? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the numbers just don't add up, the likes, the this, the views, this, whatever. And she was like, literally, I might not have mentioned anything to you, but honestly, over the summer, I was going through a really rough time, and some of your videos, honestly, without you even talking with me about it, really hit the nail on the head for me and really helped me to kind of push forward during a really tough time. And I saw that message and I could not have been more floored at that moment,
Right.
because I had no clue. And it's like you were saying before, Tony, like you have no idea what your message or who your message is getting out to and who it's helping.
And I think
so that really helped me.
Like Steve and I had that conversation all the time too. It's kind of, we forget that the point of this isn't for any kind of monetary gain. And we haven't and we didn't forget that. I'm just saying, like, if we get to a point, we've always said, we got to remind ourselves what the why was. And we say this in most of our things anyways, because most people forget why you started or what the end destination, the goal is, that there's always a sentimental reason as to what the fuck are we doing this for? If you're doing this to help people, anybody viewing it or not liking it doesn't fucking matter, because you put it out there so they had it if they ever needed or they fell upon it. If it was for any other reason, then yeah, I would get what you were saying. You were saying, well, what am I doing it for? But you just said why you're doing it for. One person is all you needed. Well, that one person saw it and it changed their life. Even if
Absolutely
it changed their fucking day, it doesn't matter. Like, it's, you put the time and the energy into giving a shit, and so is somebody else. That's huge. I love it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, man.
What do you think it takes to build a superior version of yourself?
Ooh, very good question. I know this is going to sound cheesy.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with cheesy.
Yeah, I'm going to go with cheesy. Listen, no matter what you tend to do or strive to do or the goal you're setting or whatever, keep going. Like, honestly, just like that's the ultimate thing, is just keep going. It's like the vast majority of people sit here and say that they're going to do something and say that they're going to do it or do this or do, and they give up when it gets hard. They give up. They just, they mail it in and they lie to themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. If they use it as a tool to try and get better moving forward, to maybe take that and learn something from it. But if you're really trying to set out and do something and be a superior person, be a superior you, keep going. Don't stop. Yeah. Just keep going. And it will be uncomfortable. It will. I said it earlier. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to be able to sit in the discomfort. Or you have to be able to sit in the discomfort. If you cannot sit in discomfort, you will not progress.
You don't
nothing that is worth doing. Yeah. Nothing that is worth doing is ever easy. You have to keep doing it. And even if you feel like you're falling behind, or if you feel like you're, not matching up or not on the same progress as anybody or somebody else that you look at, like, stop the self-comparison, stop all that stuff. It's nice to see that and to have a goal, but understand that you are a completely different person on your own track, on your own path, on your own thing, on your own timeline. You do you, and you keep going.
Yeah, and you're going to regret more stopping than continuing. You're going to regret hearing, like you're going to hear Betty or somebody say, oh, why are you doing that? Criticizing you. When really, if you just keep going, you're not going to worry about her in 30 fucking years. But you are going to worry about here in 30 years. The voice in your head.
Plus, how many people who have attained what you're trying to attain will always tell you that the death of your dreams is inaction, or something along those lines, by saying that not moving, by not perpetuating your energy towards that positive end goal, is the reason why it didn't happen for you. Because there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5 if your dream is to, and have another dream doing something else. As long as you're taking the hours not spent at that 9 to 5 and putting at least one of them towards that something else. But by not putting a singular fucking hour towards that something else is just a dream. And your
Absolutely.
inaction it will always kill it. Inaction will always fucking kill dreams. So I keep moving.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And I think to piggyback off of that, literally it is, you hear a lot, a buzzword, you hear a lot of buzzwords, a lot of times from people, set your intention, set your intentions, manifest or set your intentions towards these things, and you'll achieve them.
Yeah.
That's literally probably about a quarter of it. You have to dedicate towards the action, like you were saying.
Yeah.
You can set your intentions from here to high heaven. I can say I am going to run a half marathon tomorrow, and that's my intention to do it. Does that mean I'm going to do it? No. I have to dedicate
what kills me
to
is,
move forward.
Yeah. Even
towards taking those steps.
Okay, let's say 8 hours you're sleeping, 8 hours you're working, 16 hours. We got 8 hours left in the fucking day. You can't tell me you can't put 30 minutes, which is what percent of 8? How many was that? 10%? Or you can't put 15% of your time, of your free time, towards, hey, for 30 minutes today, I need to start writing a business plan, or I need to start doing so and so, whatever the goal is. I need to learn how to crochet. I don't care what it is, but like, you can't put 30 minutes towards it. You can't complain or cry pauper because you chose not to fucking try. Education is free. You can learn how to do anything on YouTube, any fucking thing you want. I guarantee it's out there. Mm-hmm. So you can't tell me that for 30 minutes, if you want to be a welder, even though you can't afford the classes right now, you can't look at how welding works on YouTube for 30 minutes. You're not even doing anything. You're just fucking watching and absorbing. You're being a sponge. There's just so many. The excuses are infallible. And now you're pissing me off to the point where now I have to fucking commit to doing 75 hard again because I couldn't remember why I didn't finish it. I couldn't remember why I didn't finish it, but now I realize whatever the reason was probably a fucking excuse.
It's exactly what it is.
And listen, guys, you heard it here first. You guys got to be able to hold Tony accountable at Wolf, okay? Right? If you see him, you got to be like, dude, did you start?
I'm gonna do a challenge at the gym. I'm gonna start it in the new year. I'm gonna see who wants to fucking do it with me. Let's suffer together.
New Year's far as hell away. October.
I'm not getting thousands of gym members to pass up on their fucking holiday meals and hold me accountable for fucking up their shit. I'll fuck up their New Year.
I could watch you not eat turkey or just have a little bit of turkey and no dessert.
Oh, I don't care. That's fine. I'll just take a nap upstairs again.
Yeah. There you go.
Ray,
I want to be respectful of your time. We were only trying to go 30 minutes. So we want to look.
Hey,
what?
I'm good.
How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. How do we find you? How do they find you?
So as of right now, like I had mentioned before, I'm on a bit of a social media hiatus for a little bit, but once I'm back on, which I'm looking to do in the new year, I'm looking to start up a few programs. You guys are actually the first ones to hear about this. I'm going to be starting up a few coaching programs since I'm going to be for hire. They're going to be, just some sort of goal setting development programs for some guys, for guys and gals, whether it be for working out or whatever it may be, or even just confidence boosting, that kind of stuff, goal setting, that kind of stuff. So once that goes on, I'll be available on Instagram and TikTok as well.